Yay, we're
Hi,
live.
Terry.
Hey, Louise. Welcome, everybody, to this week's show. And I'm pretty excited, and I think Louise as well. We've got some interesting things to talk about. And they're not normal things that business people talk about. And that's why I enjoy doing this. How you been, Lou?
Hello. I've been amazing, Perry, and I have to say I look forward to this hour just to have this like conversation and have everybody a part of it. I think it's exciting. But yeah, I've been putting together lots of great things, and I've been sitting in my zen and making things like working things forward. So all really good. It's a good week.
When you're sitting in your zen, in fact, I'm just going to
Yes.
get this name from underneath you because they're like it's pushing up against their chin. I think.
And I was giving you a chin lift. It's all good. It's all good.
What's when you say sitting in your zen? I love that. I love that.
Yes.
What do you call? What's that mean to you?
Well, for me, Perry, it's like with moving forward, which I think so many people can relate to. We're at a time where we have to be very mindful in how we're moving forward, what we're doing. And like you say, you're going through a reset process, and it is a process. And it's the same with where I'm at, but also with launching your reset revolution. So for me, I like to make time. I just sit on my own, and I sit outside on the balcony, some lovely trees, fresh air. I can hear the waves, and my notepad's there, pen and paper, no computer, no phone. And I'm just able to sit there and start the process of feeling into what it is that I need to move forward. Where are things at? How do I bring the pieces together? What's the next step? And it gives me a huge sense of confidence to be able to do that. That's probably the main word. It gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, okay. So what I want to do, because I'd come in here deciding to start this in a particular way today, and then you said, I was sitting in Zen. I've been sitting in Zen, right? And you've taken me straight into the subject. So I want to come back and talk about what you're doing with the community and the reset revolution, but you've taken me there. So I just want to stay here, and we can set this up for today. So the next thing you said is that when you sit without a computer and you've got a cup of tea, and you said, I feel into the subject. Now, just one second back, and when I send out the email, and I'll be sending out some emails and communications this week about today's show. Today's show is about the difference between logic and the body wisdom. And I think it was last week's show, 2 weeks ago, we had Brendan on. And Brendan, as you know, is an extremely logical human being. Extremely. And a gifted mathematician. And I asked both of you, what were your best decision-making states? And you both said higher consciousness states. Now, I expected that from you. You said you've written a book from the Reset Revolution from that state.
Yes.
And Brandon said that he makes all his best decisions from that higher consciousness state. And you both alluded to experiencing some forms of genius or the ability to make quicker, more evolved decisions that work out better in these states.
Yeah.
Right? So I wanted to dig into that because, as you know, I have a huge background with that type of thing. And I mean, I'm an intuitive people reader where I can just look at someone and know exactly how they are and their patterns and their behaviors. So I've always had a huge interest in this, and I want to dig into this. And it's something that's not discussed enough with practical business people as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But so what I want to do is just come back to that question when you said you sit in the Zen state, which means quiet, relaxed, and then you said you feel into the subject with the notebook. Now that's really interesting. You feel in, okay? You feel in. Now, so what does that mean when you say you feel in? What do you mean?
I start by writing like I did yesterday. I wrote down, like, for me, I've got a working compartments. So what I did was, because there's so many things happening, especially when you've got a couple of businesses, as you know, and so many people do have a couple of businesses. So I was able to compartmentalize first. I've got to kind of arrange everything logically first. And that kind of starts to help me to feel into that process. So then I get a piece of paper and I draw like a box, and inside of that I've got one of my businesses, and I write, okay, what are my responsibilities here? What are the key things that I need to do to, for that to keep thriving and moving ahead? So I write down a list of those things. Then I get another piece of paper, and then I write down with what we're doing to start the reset community. Like, we haven't started that yet because we're putting together all the back end as we are. But it's sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, how do I want that to look? How do I want that to feel for people? So I start to feel in there and I start to put down a few ideas. And then then there's another part of the whole sales funnel aspect that we have to that community. So to me, that means that when I'm in that state, I take away the manic out of my brain. That's how I do it, by compartmentalizing my thoughts first. And then I think, well, okay, let me go into here and close this one off, the easiest one. And I'll close that off. And then I put that aside, take that inside. I think, okay, that bit's all done. Really happy with that. Now I'm ready for the next one. So and then I'll just sit with that and just prompt myself with different questions, really, Perry.
Right. Now, I just want to, this is for the audience. You go, I've been sitting in a Zen state. I've been feeling into, and then you get into subjects, and you just said, I sit with, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, would you consider that thinking? Are you thinking? Is that what you're doing? I know what's happening here.
Setting up the structure for me. It sets up the structure for me to hone in on an area that I really want to grow. But once the structure's set up of where I want my mind, where I want I don't know, where I want to connect to, that intuition is, I just have it, I clear all the clutter around it first.
So you're setting up a state.
Yes.
So that, and you just said it, so you can access your intuition.
Yes. And I also have music, Perry, and it was something that Peter did for me a long time ago. And it has really been probably one of the most outstanding ways for me to get into incredible flow and connection, that real deep connection of where I need to take things. And that is like on the television, he goes to like the apps there, and he puts up, which everyone's probably seen, it's like meditation music or positive calm music. And what it has is, it just has this beautiful scenery on it, just and this meditation music, and it's a big screen, and it just like sits in the background of my life where I'm working from. And even while I'm having breakfast, it's leading me into that state. So by the time when I'm ready to sit down and I do that, I'm already in that particular flow. And music really helps me. And the images of nature are a massive call for me. It just does something really special, really, for everybody.
So what's fascinating about what you're communicating about is you're lowering your brainwave states. Okay.
Yes.
So just so you understand everything you've communicated about today and how you set up your day, if I was to go and measure your brainwave states, you're lowering them.
It is so beautiful, Perry, to work from that.
Correct. So just so you know, because we don't talk about these things, I have playing always have playing. I don't have it at the moment. I don't do it when I'm working with clients or I'm having to do something with microphones around, because I have very good quality microphones. I do a similar thing where I have Gregorian chants, classical music.
Yes.
Or I have music that lowers brainwave states, actually designed to lower brainwave states. And what that does is it allows me to focus for really long periods of time and not be distracted, and I get into flow states. Now, we will go into the science. I actually think we'll go sideways. We'll probably come back to the subject. But what I want to talk to now is you do that. Brendan does that. I do that. Most people do none of these things that are business people. Most don't. Okay. Now it's interesting. I just had a meeting this morning with a gentleman, and he, for the last 6 to 8 months, has been engaging this process. He's a very male kind of character, you know, like, let's just push. and he, I've known him for years, good businessman. Now he's a great businessman, right? Because
yes,
of embracing this. And what he's doing is accessing superpowers, which we're going to talk about, but we'll talk about it after what I sort of originally planned to do at the start of today. So I'll just finish this off and we'll get to what you're doing with the book and the reset process itself and the community. But most business people are in high beta or beta brainwave states their entire day of working. Their entire day of working.
And that lends itself to burnout. And that's when we're kind of, I don't operate best in that, and that's what burnt me out. And I think when, like you're saying, and it's great how you explain that, because you just, the music for me, as well as seeing the visual of this drone going just over the top and the flow of it physically and visually, like, it really puts me into that state. But yeah, like if I didn't have that and I just was in that beta state all the time, like, I would make decisions that would cost me money. Plus I would make decisions that wasted time. I've been there. And this is much easier this way and much more productive. I think my work's much more productive. I enjoy my work so much better. I'm so much more relaxed, like not just in work, but outside of work as well. And you're right, Perry, is that so many people, and I put my hand up to spending most of my life in that beta state and trying to, you know, like, fine, you become very successful, but what price?
At what price, exactly?
Yes.
You know, it's people look at this stuff and think, oh, it's soft or it's weak or it's somehow, you know, like, it's not serious business. And here you are, you're a person who's built multi-million-dollar businesses. Same for me. I've always been a business builder and helped people build successful businesses. It's got some kind of concept. This is some wishy-washy new age thing where, you know, and if even I take the name of the show, Evolve Show, you know, one of the things I find quite fascinating is when you evolve, you become. If evolving isn't some intangible place, when you evolve, you are a better individual. When I say a better individual, you are a more capable individual. You make better decisions, and that's a byproduct of evolving. So
Perry, would you say that evolving is, just what you were saying there, what came to me was through my own process and seeing other people's process, is that evolving, if you put it into like something really tangible in that to grasp hold of, is your thoughts are evolving to a different pace. Your decisions are evolving, and you know your energy evolves. Everything starts to evolve. As it's like you say, it's not something intangible that most people think evolution is. It's actually very practical.
It's totally tangible and it's very practical. And there are elements of it that are impractical, which I'll talk about in a second. But what you've said is correct. So evolution is a revolution of your psyche, right? So you look at, say, before you had the big burnout, to be where you are now, you've had a revolution in your psyche. Now, when we look at revolution, I can tell you love this, by the way. Everyone, Lou's a brander. She's more of a brander than I am. She's really good with names. So as soon as I say there's a revolution in the psyche, that's a phrase like that, we go, okay, it's a revolution in the psyche, because first of all, the patterns and pre-existing belief systems that led you to burnout have now been evolved past, meaning those patterns have deeply minimized their impact on your consciousness. You've got different operating patterns that make you operate better. So that's right, evolution. Now, when we talk about the intangible, there is an intangible to it. And the intangible is, it can't be spoken about, but you know you've grown. You know, you just know. And so this is probably what's happening on deeper, more mysterious parts of your own personal consciousness, because you're honoring your evolutionary path. So not only do you evolve and become better at things, right? It's really interesting, because one of my first teachers, he used to talk about his teacher, who was an amazing meditator, like in the sense of his meditation practice, but he's also so gifted, right? He was gifted, right? And I'm talking about, well, of course, once you start cleaning your act up and evolving, you have many what we call transcendent experiences that go beyond most normal sense of self. So you have transpersonal experiences. But at that same time, you become better at things. So there is the intangible. It's intangible. It's almost like, right, and this is something that I've been looking at lately. I'm excited because me and the young genius are doing some work together.
Yes.
We're doing some podcasts soon.
Yes.
For those of you that are watching, I have a 14-year-old genius friend, and I've known him since he's a baby, and him and I get on like that. And we've just set up some interviews with, say, some of the top intellects in the world.
Fantastic.
Super excited. But that aspect of the thing that I've been thinking about is, I think we're born and we have this, well, I know that we're born, we have a calling, it's our own theme.
Yeah.
And to honor that theme, you have to push up against fears, or you have to push up against people not liking you. I've just been going through that myself, in the sense of, am I willing to be everything I am in the world? Everything, and just show it all.
Yes.
Right? And so with any calling, there is something that must be faced, right? There's a test. There's a test. And if you pass that test, and pass doesn't necessarily mean success. Pass means, are you willing to honor who you really are? Who you really are and what you're here for. And that's why when there's an intangible element that when you evolve, yes, of course you get better at things. You think clearer. You've got less projection happening. You've got access to super intuition, which we need to get back to talking about, because that's what I promised we'd talk about. But those things those tangible things happen, but you also got that sense of, well, I know that I'm doing what I'm here to do and supposed to do. And you feel an inner satisfaction in that, or it's not even that, it's like you're right? So in the same way, my brother's a musician, and it's just natural and right for him to play music. That's all. Yes. And so that in itself provides some inherent satisfaction. But if you've got to, you get what I'm saying. So the more you honor what you are, it'll just be an inherent satisfaction. The moment you dishonor it, your energy will lower.
Yes.
And somehow inside you'll know you've been honored your cowardice over your calling, and you will feel shrunken, even though you rationalize why. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that. We're going to get into intuition. We're going to get into the body, because this is really important. Actually, we'll do this because I can't help myself. People that are rational, just remember, everyone's trained to be rational. It's almost like the entire society trains us to be rational. When we were kids, and that great song, the Logical Song by Supertramp, you got to read the lyrics.
I listened to that beforehand. I thought it was very good.
Yeah,
Straight to the point. It was so good. The words to that.
Yeah, when you're young, when you're young, you've got a feeling relationship with everything around you. And I'm going to use that word, feeling relationship.
Yes.
Then you go to school, and they train that out of you, because there's no honouring of that. There's an honouring of this aspect, the rational aspect. And therefore, people become disconnected from their bodies. And then they lose the ability to evolve and to have a deeper level of insight or access to super levels of intuition or insight. Because when you're talking about before about what you do when you get into the Zen state, when you're feeling into your unconscious, because you're soft pondering, right? That's what we call soft pondering.
Yes.
Not hard logic. You're just being patient, and it just comes to you, comes through you. But you get that experience, comes through you.
Yes, and it's a lot more. And you're right, Perry. It is like a soft pondering, and it's a really lovely space where you don't really judge anything too much. And it's a space where you become more open and curious as well. And that's why you're able then to really pull in and accept, through that curiosity and soft pondering, you're able to pull in new ideas and things that maybe logically you would not think of normal, or other people may not think of either, because it is coming from that more feeling space. But it is important, I feel, to be able to create your rituals and your routines so that you can actually create that space. For me anyway, I don't feel it's something you just snap your fingers and there you are in that space. It takes effort.
So just quickly, you can get to the point, you can access it instantly, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. That's what I'm working on, Perry.
Yeah, which is why I call you into these calls and won't tell you what we're doing.
I don't know.
We're talking about that. That's really important, actually. Until you're there, until you're at that point where you can just go bang in that state, you're probably right. I mean, I actually also have my rituals. I'm quite trained to drop into that, and I'll tell you why and how. But I still have my rituals. What's your suggestion to those people watching in how you would set up the rituals? And these rituals, what rituals do you have in place? You sort of mentioned it before, because you make sure you get everything out of your way. But just if you can come back and talk about that, what do you do to set up your rituals? Like, what rituals do you use to lower your brainwaves, to prepare to lower your brainwave states? To kind of keep bringing back. And there's something else you said before too about your body, which I'm going to come back and ask you about. Because we're going to look for pathways. How do people recognize when it's logical versus it's intuitive? And so that'd be my second question. So what are the rituals you set up so you can get out of your logic and get into soft pondering?
Well, the first thing that a couple of things can happen, but with most people, we have a morning ritual, and that for me is, as soon as my eyes open, I do a light meditation, that sort of thing, and I take it quite easy in the mornings. So another thing that happens as well is that the night before I go to sleep, I will actually pose a question. And I'll just say, while I'm sleeping, this is a solution. I'm looking for a solution to this particular problem, or some ideas to for marketing or whatever it might be. Hundreds of different things. So I'll put that into my psyche, and as I sleep, and what I find that helps set me up for that day is that I wake up. And sometimes it could be, say, 4 a.m. in the morning. And I think so many people can relate, where it can be even 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning. And it's very quiet. And at that particular stage, there's no agenda really for the brain for the day. And it's like at the surface of my mind, there's all these lovely ideas. So I become very present at that time and just soak them in of what's processed for me through the night. And then I can take some of those gems, and it might be just one gem, and that's what I will actually work on for that day, and I'll broaden it. So the next part to that doesn't happen all the time, but a lot of the time it does if I set it up that way. But then in the mornings, I don't have any television on. I try to avoid a lot of, depending on day, some days I have to do this because a lot of my business is online, but I'll avoid social media for a long time that day. I'll go into it later on to do my work. So I try not to allow the outside world to come in and plant something in my mind, like some sort of psychic virus, and take me off on another place. The most important aim for me is to keep focus. That's the best skill. So I do everything with that. And yeah, I'll sit out in the sunshine, have a cup of tea, and that's the day that I've set up for me to sit down and create ideas, because I know from that I can then get right behind it and work with them. So setting up nice music is always a must for me, right from like maybe 20, 30 minutes from getting up there. It's just that light music at the back with the back of the house, and it's just got some lovely travel shots and nature shots. And I work with that, and that leads me into it then.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I mean, I've heard people do, I don't do that one with the night thing. I hear a lot of people doing that.
Yes.
Your consciousness before you go to sleep to help work on an issue, a challenge, or a question you have. The other thing, you're protecting your mind. I really take it that you don't listen to this thing, you don't do this, and you don't do that, because you're protecting your mind. And as you were saying that, and just for those watching, that is, Lou doesn't want this bombardment of the world, and you're empathic. You're a very empathic person, so that's probably really important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is important. And I think if you are an empathic person, and you know that you pick up the vibes of a lot going on, it is a little bit like, it is a bit tougher. That's just a bit of a tougher call. That's what it is. You feel the world, and
Yeah.
and you're not just feeling someone else's emotions. You're feeling the energy of the things around you. And so discipline's been really, really important to me to make sure I keep the focus on me, not on the world right now. And from a mission point of view, and putting the new business that's out there, I feel I do a better service to the people that are coming into Reset and people out there by actually stepping away from what's happening in the external world at the moment, and being a light, being strong, being able to guide a way through, like what you do, Perry. And that's my service.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. So you're protecting yourself from that to be in service. And you know what? I'm just thinking, as you communicate, how. So I'm empathic. Obviously, I can't do what I do. I mean, I have about 5 or 6 different ways of reading people and getting information about them. But the empathic approach, I mean, I just feel what a person's feeling. They can be on the other side of the world. I don't even need to see them. Fortune 500 execs, and they go, "How did you know I just held my breath? How did you know that?" They get used to it. And because I'm feeling them, I can be on the other side of the world. And for those that are watching this going, this is do, you can challenge me about any of these things, right? I can tell you the science behind it. We can go into it. It's so I have that empathic aspect. But one of the things is I noticed they did a potential difference between you and I. And I was just thinking, communicating. I do have to be aware of how much I get involved in the harshness of the world. But it's really interesting because I can even see this between my wife and I. Even though I've got a strong empathic part, I've also always had, I can play in the world. I used to work with street kids. I used to work with the worst thugs, rapists. It's just...
that's amazing.
Yeah, Anne-Marie's going to do social work, and I'm going, oh my God, Anne-Marie, like she's like you. I'm just like, I can work in those things. I can be in the worst. I've been in the worst violent sort of experiences, and I'm fine.
Yes.
But no, that's not entirely true. If I'm around that all the time, I can sense, and it's like my teacher used to say. Now, because I'd always be working with what he'd call the wounds of the world, and the way I'd lived my life, I have to be aware of it. But I actually thrive. Like, I thrive on news. And Anne-Marie can't hear about the horrible things. I'm like, what the hell's human nature up to now, right? So a big part of what we're communicating about is also recognizing and understanding what we need as individuals.
Yeah.
You know that you can't be listening to the news and hearing about these people being killed and this happening without it impacting, because you are so strongly empathic.
Yeah, and that's true, Perry. And one of the things that I'm having to constantly work on, and I think so many people can relate to, is that because I like being informed as well, I like to get a sense as well of where people are at. So you can have that, you can feel into what would help and support people as well. So I've got a lot stronger where I never used to watch the news, but with everything going on, I've been able to watch it, and I do watch it without it affecting me really too much. I take that in, but what I don't do is I don't watch violent movies, and there's a lot of stuff that I just don't feel really good with, and it doesn't serve me. But right, you've got to know yourself, because Peter can sit there and watch them all night. He's perfectly fine, loves it. You know, he loves the storyline behind it. Like, as soon as I hear the guns and everything, I'm like, oh no, I'm out of here.
That's right. That's why I love this conversation. And for those listening, just recognize that we're talking about frameworks and what Lou needs to do to access her most highly intuitive state when she's building businesses to work on her ideas. And I'm talking about that as well. But Lou needs something different to me. Well, actually, it's not true, because everything you've said that you do, I do to set myself up to be intuitive.
It's become very natural for you, Perry. You automatically have music now, and the rituals are a part of who you are now, aren't they? They're very natural.
Correct. I wouldn't do it any other way. And just the only difference between us is you're just more totally empathic, where I can turn my empathicness on and off. And
that's what I'm learning to do, Perry. You got to teach me that.
Well, I taught Georgina that years ago. We'll have a conversation about that. Maybe we'll actually do a training with people.
That would be a great training. How do you protect yourself in that state? How, to be in the world more without it affecting you? Because, like, you can be, as empathic souls, you can be out there with people, and you actually physically feel other people's ailments, and it's just and that's not good. And it's been I've had to learn what's mine and what's somebody else's.
Well, by the way, that's what you do. It is knowing what's yours and what's theirs. And there's actually tricks you can do with the energy system. We won't talk about that today, but in a future we'll do that. So I had my hard suit. That's actually how I started. I had to go down. I think I shared this with you. I had to go down and sort out some thugs that were abusing the mother. I had to kick some one of the sons out, and their mates were there, and it was getting a bit bullshit. I had my hard suit on. Right?
Yes.
This is one of the benefits.
That's what I need. A hard suit. A hard suit.
Hard suit.
Yeah.
It's a hard suit. I came home, and for a day and a half afterwards, I was really impacted because it was a no-win situation. I had to take the son from the mother. The mother wishes they could have a good relationship. The kid's out in the street, which is better. I had to find a place with his mates, and the whole thing's just horrible. There's no win. All I was doing was protecting the mother from being hit and attacked by the son. But the next day, it's just I feel sad inside. I just feel sad inside for the son, who is excuse the language, but he's just an absolute prick. But he's a hurt prick, right?
Yes, that's right.
He's
Yes.
a wounded hurt prick, and I understand that
Yes.
I was in juvenile detention as a young person for violent offending. So I understand that, and then I'm protecting her, but I can do that, and I don't feel a thing. What's interesting is I keep my, this is fascinating actually, I even thought about it during it, and I remember when I was younger, I'm waiting, right? I'm in that environment, and I'm reading the environment. And I'm saying, because we're going to be talking about sage mind soon. So sage mind, it's interesting. So my teachers, you talk about Zen state, I talk about sage mind. Sage mind is a centered mind where there's no logic. You're not involving logic. You're downgrading your brain waves from beta down to alpha into theta. And I was observing when I was in that environment how I've got my hard suit on, but I'm still feeling the environment because I'm waiting for someone to whack me or pull a knife on me. And does this make sense to you? So I actually use those skills of reading and assessing even when I've got my hard suit on.
Such a great skill. Such a great skill. I think we all can learn that in another session, Perry, because it is really important to know how to do that, because more than ever, it's around us. There's a lot of pain around us, and it's coming at us at all different levels, and that's why sometimes you can have some aches and pains, or you can have thoughts crossing your mind, and it's like, where these thoughts come from? They're not mine.
Yeah,
like it's just it's having another level of presence, I suppose, and I suppose that's a part of that whole evolution. But it's something that is my path, is to really get really good at that. And the reason being is so I can actually help more and more people, like understand, but not take it on.
Sure. Reset Revolution, like why? I mean, I'm working with you on that, and we're building out courses and stuff like that at the moment, but just what's your aim with Reset Revolution? What's your aim with the Reset Revolution community?
We've got your Reset Revolution, and that's Facebook at the moment, and that'll have all the social media arms to it, and that's
So just for those that are watching this, that's your Reset Revolution Facebook. So that if anyone's searching for it, your Reset Revolution. If anyone wants to join, what you're doing, what we're doing with that.
Join would be great. We haven't actually kicked it off as far as adding all our content on there, because we're just waiting a few more things. But in the next week or two, we will be doing that, and we'd love to have people a part of that. It's really about, and as we'll have, is some really great stories of people who are resetting their lives and how they're resetting, and really sharing ideas where people can come together and what it takes to reset. And I share in the book, which is actually available on Amazon in Kindle at the moment. And from that book, we'll be creating, a lot of working with the community and answering questions, anything that is reset. And Perry will have his expertise in there and other things as well. And we'll show a lot of stories so that people can relate to different things. But to be together is what's really important, Perry, that we all help each other through reset. That's the main one.
You're a real community maven. I've always observed that. You get me? You are, and you've done this for years, actually. I want to speak to this, and we're going to come back to the subject, because I've got some promises to deliver on from the email and communications about what the show's on about today. So I'm probably going to go into a bit of a rant and rave and get into science and body and things like that. You know what I do. But before that, before we get to the rant, and when I go into my rant and rave, I don't stop. You notice, like when I'm interviewing, I'm so interested, I really pause. That sometimes when I'll go into a rant and rave about a subject because I know the subject so well. So I actually like this. It's more relaxed for me to do this, but I've got to finish off because I've got to deliver on my promises.
Yes.
A real community maven in the sense of you've built some large communities in your businesses in the past, and one of the things about you is you're such a genuine human being in regards to your desire to serve, and you I think community is a truer thing for you than me. I think that you naturally just build community. I'm just
I
trying
love the connection. I really love the connection. I like to be able to get back to a comment and take the feedback from the community and see where the needs are, so that I can present whatever expertise I need to bring to that, or who could come in. Like, so I've always been coordinating lots of different information and people, and bringing the best of people into the community to help the community. And that's why reset, because having to go through my own reset, and the world is going through its own reset. So this can be very scary, and we do not have to do this alone. And like, there's going to be people in this community that are going to help other people reset as well. I'm just like coordinator.
I'm going to rant and rave, then I'm going to come back to this.
Okay.
Seriously, it is a travesty. It is an absolute travesty. People have problems with reset. You're right? And this is a travesty. I was fortunate at the age of 16 or 17 to meet my first teacher, and I've been trained in a lineage. Okay, so lineage means that I always laugh at this, because all my life I've met these, I call them seeker searchers, right? Like, I met my lineage. I never shifted from my lineage. I met my first teacher. I went, my first teacher's bloody amazing, right? Yeah. Why would I go anywhere else? I don't need another teacher. I just practice what that teacher taught me. And then my next teacher was of the same lineage, right? So,
yes.
Right. Now, so from that 16 or 17 years of age, I had this training around how this thing called Perry works, right?
Yeah.
The deep introspective work so that I could suddenly say, well, I'm a personality. I'm not my personality. I can see my personality. I can see all the different parts of my personality, right?
Yeah.
And I can disidentify from my personality. And all of a sudden, I didn't have my personality controlling me, because your personality is made up of beliefs that have been programmed into you, right? Or you've even inherited from your family of origin, or your family lineage. And so right from day dot, as a young person, having to work through my own challenges, as a violent person, as a person who was very, very sick, as a person who couldn't have quality relationships, who would have probably been dead now if I just followed my conditioning. I had to work through all of that. And then I started to experience a spiritual life as a result of that, because once you start doing good quality inner work and you start cleaning yourself up, so cleaning yourself up means sort of cleaning up those behavioural tendencies, behavioural patterns. Anyway, long and short of it, because when I come back to the community thing, then get back into the body stuff that I want to talk about today, I learned. So I actively take myself through the reset process. And going through a reset process is uncomfortable. When I go through a reset process, I know why I'm uncomfortable. I know that being uncomfortable is part of it. So just as an example, what do we mean by uncomfortable? And I just did one of the one of the trainings for the Reset Revolution yesterday, so it's real fresh in mind. Okay, so all human beings want certainty. So we want both things. So we want certainty. We want to be comfortable. So in wanting certainty, we seek comfort zones, and comfort zones coincide with competency zones. Okay, so as an example, this is not me turning up here today and doing this. I don't have any nerves. I just don't have nerves doing this, right? Now, this is a comfort zone and a competency zone for me, because comfort zones are competency zones. It means I've done this stuff for years. I've talked in public. That doesn't mean that I don't work at upgrading my skills, but I'm safe here. Okay? I'm safe. So the ego goes, oh, that's great, safe, safe, safe. So there's many people who will watch this and will end up being in the reset revolution that have done jobs they don't like for years. And all of a sudden they're threatened because of what's gone on with COVID. Their jobs are threatened. But they would have been ignoring a prompting to change their life years ago. Because oftentimes when you're in a comfort zone, And in a certainty zone, this is how you think. You go to work at 7 in the morning and you come home at 6 at night. And what happens, you go, oh, is this all there is to life? Oh, is this all there is to life? Surely there's more. Oh, this is boring me. Okay? Now, what happens is to fully ask yourself that question, which is what I was trained to do. Well, this is what I'm to do, right? So the moment you start asking those questions, you'll get a new direction, a direction that's more in line with you now, because we're evolving as creatures. So what was once juicy and exciting for us to do becomes a habit, and then we become trapped in that habit, and we keep doing it because it's safe and it's certain, right? So we ask that question, and that question means we're going to have to take a risk. That's what I said before. If you're following your soul's impulse, something has to be lost, something has to be sacrificed. And so that could be, well, I've got to leave my spouse. I've just spent the last 5 years in counselling. We've done everything we can. It's not going to work. Or I've got to leave this job, or COVID's meant that I'm now really threatened. So there's a war, because the ego wants the certainty, the soul wants the new, and wants you to come into alignment. And this stuff's not taught. So no wonder people have challenges and problems, because this is a model. It's easy to understand, right?
There's a transition, isn't there, Perry? There's that signal, which is, like you were saying, giving some of the signals and the signs that, I need to reset, which is what we do feel, that there is an intuitive insight that is happening, and so many of us ignore it.
Because of what I just said.
Because of what you said. So we ignore that, but yet there's that thing, I know there's something more, but we get caught in, and I know we covered some of this in the course, and you explained it, like getting caught between where you are here and the reset signs and alarm bells are going off, but you're not really too sure where to go, and you have to trust that to get over here to that new, where that soul's calling, because you can't really see this, can you, yet? Because you're still blinded. It's like you're blindsided here, and that's where you've got to trust that intuition to bridge you across into something that's new.
Correct. Now, I don't want to go into this too much, as we're going away from what the topic. We're here, and it's important. I want to say this because I am preparing to run trainings on this.
Yeah.
Elements of this will be brought into the Reset course. You can get to a certain point when you've done a certain amount of inner work where you're connecting to what's next, and it becomes very clear about what's next. And your job is to keep focusing on that and on creating that and constantly dropping the ego. And so what happens is you learn to live in the moment in uncertainty. And you breathe into it, isn't it? What's that?
That's that transition time. It's like that's that middle section, which is uncertainty, which is that intuition that to actually guide you through that darker space.
Correct, because then you're pulling on higher consciousness. Now, again, and we haven't set a map to set this up for anyone that's watching us today, but in higher consciousness states, you experience almost being held. You're in a higher consciousness state. And that higher consciousness state is saying, go here, do this, go there, go here, do this, go here, do this. And the ego's going, this is scary, 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 scary. And where's my certainty, right? And the training is just drop that and stay in the uncertainty and stay connected to the higher guidance or the higher consciousness. Now that's a discipline, and that becomes something that is easier with practice, and this will bring me to where I want to go with the body. But I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to do my rant and rave so I can finish off with the body. So this thing with the community, I just want to, as you talked about the Reset Revolution community, and you talk about a community, and everyone watching this can see your love, your care and concern. And I can see on a deep level, one of your callings is it's almost like you want to reach and hold people, right? You want to reach and hold as many people as you can to serve and support them. And for you, community is the way of doing that, right? Because you don't want to be coaching people one-on-one. You want to be reaching the community and building the community so the community itself takes on a life form.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is that how you would?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it in those words. I just love it when you do that, Perry.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
it all makes sense all of a sudden in just a few words.
Yeah, that's right.
But it is about holding that space.
Yeah,
it's
holding
the space.
Yeah, holding the space for that. And it's really interesting because I'm learning from you when I do that, because I'm the same. I'm a very relational human being, obviously. I couldn't do what I do, meaning I love reaching and serving people. I probably don't have that community thing in the same way as you do. I don't that's and there's reasons for this, by the way. And actually I'm going to look at some patterns around that. So I'm a heretic by nature, meaning I had a conversation this morning. If you want to live on a certain level of intellectual, okay, it's been playing out in the world at the moment. So as an example, I'll share something. Alan Jones shared some information about COVID. Now, do I like Alan Jones? He's not my favourite guy. I don't like his aggressive approach, but he produced some really good science. And as you know, I love science, and I follow all the stats and the latest science on many things. So he shares this information, Lou. And anyway, I shared it, and someone else shared it, and suddenly I get someone, oh, he's just bloody right wingers. He's just looking after his wealth. And anyway, I've experienced this so often. It's just like, and I replied to the guy and I said, I've never particularly liked Alan Jones. I've never liked his energy. But I don't care whether he is a right winger or a left winger.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less. If he's providing good information that helps us solve problems. Now, one of the issues in the world at this point is that person that attacked Alan Jones is interested in this silly little egoic agenda, his sense of having a war between the left and right wing. Now, I could read that person. That means his intellect is tied and dumbed down to his ego. Because his intellect must serve his egoic allegiances to his tribe. You've got me going somewhere, but I'll finish this off because I could talk about this for ages. So what we see at this point in time is people in tribes yelling at other tribes. You've got the woke tribe yelling at the people that aren't woke. You've got the left tribe yelling at the right tribe. It's just, and politicizing everything. They all lack an intelligence that is severed from ego. Okay, because their intelligence is used to bolster their tribal identity, which must make someone else wrong to feel right. Now, as a meditator and someone that's done a lot of inner work, it gets to the point where your intellect is severed from your ego. Well, we talked before about evolution changes things in your consciousness. So I'm going to annoy. So it's one of the reasons that, again, I've struggled sometimes with communities and tribes is, as you can see, I'll probably just said something now that will annoy and upset all sorts of people. You see? Regardless, it is the truth. It is.
Yeah. It is still the truth. Yeah.
It is still the truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so sometimes a challenge for me is, I just you get where I'm going with that. So. And just to finish that, just to bring the science to that, it's called confirmation bias or cognitive dissonance. So the brain structure itself, based on the reticular activating system at the top of the brain stem, uses it twists statistics, it twists things to suit the ego bias.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is just basic 101. This is why the world concerns me at the moment. It's like, I don't care what a person is from I want to be able to have a decent discussion and have a conversation, because it's not about beating the other team. I'm here about getting solutions, okay? So anyway, we're going to go, we better finish this off. So I'm going to go to the body quickly. So we've talked about accessing intuition and states of consciousness that are far more powerful than logic. And you've gone through what you do to set that up. You've talked about your own experiences with that. So I'm just going to come to this from my area of expertise and my experience over the years of working with people. So one of the things that happens is people are trained to disconnect from their bodies. So think about, we go to the schooling system, and in the schooling system, they teach logic. When you've talked today, I watch how you communicate, and you go, I feel into. Think about the words.
Yeah.
Right? So someone that just even analyzes the linguistics of this will see that you say, I feel into. I connect to.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is engaging the feeling states of consciousness. And those feeling states, you're also setting your body up. You talk about what you're doing. You're setting your body up. So you're lowering your brain waves into beta, from beta down to alpha into theta. When that happens, the cortisol levels in the body reduce, so you don't have stress and anxiety. You ensure you don't have too much news, so you're decreasing the stress in the body. When you decrease the stress in the body and you're alive to the body tells you things. That's where you get your gut feeling. And because your brain waves lowered, you get that gut sense that you have the empathic experience of picking up on someone else. That can't happen for the person who's trained to be in logic. And I'm going to talk about this in a second a little bit more, and is in beta brainwave states. They're out of their body, stressed thinking. Now, we take this to another level. Most people, when they're trained to move out of their body because their bodies are full of uncomfortable feelings. So I'm just going to do a quick example here. I work with less of this now because people have changed a lot. But years ago, I worked with a lot of people that came from Britain. And in Britain, no one talked about their feelings. No one talked about uncomfortable subjects. When I say no one, that's stereotyping. But in general, to strip up a lip, keep your feelings to yourself. Like, think about, it's changed now, but think about the Brits, say, in the 60s and 70s versus the Italians, right? Italians, Brits, no, not to express any emotion. So what happens is, a young person could grow up in a family and have emotional issues and challenges, that there's no parent or that mirrors to them the any nuance to deal with emotional challenges and issues. Okay, so this young person goes, well, I've got these feelings, well, what do I do with them? So they actually start to disconnect. They bring their awareness from their body and they become thinking people. Okay, now the challenge with that is, if you want to evolve, you're in trouble, because if you're bringing your awareness out of your body and you become a thinking person. Now, important to say, I want people to be thinking people. Evolution requires you to be intelligent. Evolution requires you to upgrade your intellect. But if you upgrade your intellect at the expense of body awareness, which means you're compensating, I don't want to feel these feelings, I'm going to try and live from my logic, then you'll be lying to yourself. Right? So this is, I want to explain, it's going to be real quick because I'm aware of time. So, as an example, someone could have a dysfunctional hermit. The dysfunctional hermit, it's always saying that, no, don't go to that party, don't do this, don't do that. Okay? Now, and I asked them, well, why don't you go and do stuff? I don't really enjoy parties. I don't really enjoy socializing. And that's what they'll tell me. And then I look at them, I see inside that there's a little child self that when they were younger feels like, because of what happened in their childhood, oh, no one really likes me. And because I perceive that no one really likes me, right? You get me? Right?
Yeah.
And so because they've withdrawn their awareness from their body, the initial response is a lie. It's not that they mean to lie. Where, first of all, if they had the ability to access their body, they'd be able to be truthful. So getting back into your body starts with being truthful. And this is when we start to learn to introvert awareness through developing what we call the observer. And then we see, the reason we don't go to parties is people make me feel uncomfortable because it brings up my insecurities. Okay, that's an answer that now heads to the truth, and we can do something about it.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So where I want to go with this is, so we actually live in a society, and you talked about this before, overstimulated.
Yeah.
Masculine, meaning everyone's out in the yang doing stuff. You talked about earlier on, you do these things to set yourself up so you're quiet, right? And you've spent time working out, well, what are my patterns? Meaning you're bringing your awareness into your body. So in early stages of bringing awareness to bodies, you're working through stuff, but I guarantee you're finding yourself being more intuitive, right? Because does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Now, we don't have time. We're going to wrap this up. There are forms of consciousness and intelligence in the body that are insane. When I said before, when we're able to get clear about what we want and drop that ego mind, the worries and concern, when we practice that, the body itself has an instinctive, natural ability to work out how to do things. This is now being studied in science, and it's called intrinsic learning, on the go. So they've worked out, plenty of science, John Vervaeke flow states. If anyone wants to go watch that, John Vervaeke flow states. That was his maps of meaning, cognitive scientist. And basically they were working out these super learning states. He's also a meditator and a Qigong Tai Chi person. And so he's got no woo in him, and all. I'd have more woo viewpoints than he does. But regardless, he's talking about how the body itself has these innate wisdoms, but we get in the way of that through our thinking mind and our nervous system being triggered by belief systems like, oh, I'm scared, I'm worried. So we talk about these states where the body itself, and I know this in business, my body will tell me, go that way.
It does. Yeah, I can sometimes physically feel sick, like as in not to go to somewhere. I can actually feel that in my stomach. Our body's always talking to us, always.
Correct, our body, and you've got to be awake to listen to it. So you can see, Lou, when I said before, someone's not in their body, they're up in here. They can't work on their patterns, and they're not getting access to the supercomputer that the body actually is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to go, and I really enjoyed it working with Lou again, and I hope everyone got a lot from it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Bye.
And
Thanks,
by the way, Lou, so where's the book? Share where
the book is up on Amazon, and it's Your Reset Revolution, and it's all up there now on Kindle. Right. So that's our first one. We're waiting for the hardcover part to be organised now.
Yeah, right. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Lou.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.